Hey, this is Jim Rivers back for another tutorial for Sonic Academy. This is probably the last one I think that I'll do in this session, and we're going to look at the final little tweaks and just sort of checking that everything is pretty much sitting as we want it. So we've covered quite a lot of stuff in the last few sessions, and obviously 10-minute videos only give you a certain insight into stuff, so hopefully I'll get opportunity to show some more bits and bobs. But at this point I will usually just be going over and checking that the balance of sounds is about right, the general mix is where I want it, especially when I'm thinking about testing out a track in a club, for example. But I'll also be getting ready to do a bounce down of the track so I can listen to it in the car or on my iPhone or on various different systems. So one of the things I'll do first of all probably is just check the drums are sounding as I want them. So I'm just going to solo the drum bus and just have a listen through the track. And what I'm listening out for are just certain sounds and frequencies that might not be quite as I want them. Now generally what I do is I mix as I go, and I think that's a good habit to get into. So I will make most things sit about right as I'm putting the sounds in and developing the track, because I can't stand to hear something that's really, I don't know, whether it's a really bad frequency or something's not fitting. I usually try and deal with it, and then obviously you can come back at this stage and tweak things a little bit more. But for example, I'm just going to look at this hi-hat straight away. Just have a little look at the EQ on this one. So let's have a listen. Let's solo that. It's quite a thick sounding hi-hat. I'm probably just going to roll a bit of that bottom stuff off because you can't hear it anyway. That's cool, but I want to keep the rest of that stuff in there. I thought there was maybe a bit of a weird frequency in there, but I'm happy with that. So it's just these little detail bits like that. Let's see what else. Okay, there's some nice spacing going on with some of those other sounds, but what I might do with this hi-hat, depending on what is happening with the other hi-hats, is maybe move it around in terms of spread or panning. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a modulation plugin, just the standard Logic spreader, and then I have a little setting in here which I like that I've made, which just moves the hat around, so you'll hear. It kind of almost has like a doubling chorusy effect. It sounds quite wide, but the effect kind of moves around a little bit, so it doesn't always sound the same every time the hi-hat strikes. So what I want to do is just compare that with some of the other stuff in that frequency range, such as the shaker, the tambourine, and the hi-hats here, and just check that it all sits well. Okay, that all sounds pretty good. Ah, that's interesting. I've got a hi-hat there that is not going through my drum bus, so I'll stick that one back in. So this is the exact sort of thing that I want to check for, especially with this being a track that I haven't looked at for a little while. So the drum bus was bus 2, so I just make sure that this one goes through there as well. I like to put things through a bus. It just keeps things a little bit tighter. I like to generally affect the kind of drums. I don't put the kick drum into it though, because if you do that with the compression, often the kick drum starts to squeeze things a little bit too much. So I personally don't do that unless I'm looking for that effect, which sometimes is worth doing. Let's have another listen again. Yeah, these sort of hats here that are playing off another hat, if you look at the timing of it, So the standard hi-hat is here, so the kick drum would be here, and then the hi-hat is in the middle, and then the kick drum is here. With this hat here, I've got it coming in slightly before to give it a skippy effect, which sounds really good, but if you have it too loud, it sounds really off-putting. So you have to get it about right. So let's have a listen to that again. Yep, that's working. It's got that kind of which is the effect that I'm after. So that seems to be sitting all right. There's nothing too nasty that's jumping out there to me. So what I'm going to add into the while the drums are playing, I'm going to make sure the kick plays as well. So what I'll actually do is I'll just mute some of the pads and stuff, so that I can just hear the drums playing on their own, which is what I'm after. So let's have a listen. Okay, that's all sounding pretty cool. Let's just check when the hats come in. Okay, that's not sounding too bad to me. What I will always do with drums and stuff is there will always be frequencies that stick out when I listen to it on another system. Another little tip that I would give you is that often when you're writing music, it's very easy to have it very loud. First of all, if you have it loud for too long, it wears your ears out. It also damages your hearing if you have it really loud. But the key thing is, if it tires your ears out, you can't listen as accurately to the mix down. So quite often what I will do is I will turn the whole volume that I'm listening to in my studio down to a very low level. And what you'll find if you do that is that anything that is sticking out too much, you hear it so much more when it's quieter. It sounds a bit weird, but it's a good little habit to get into. So like hi-hats or shakers, things like that you don't always notice when you've got it really loud. You hear those things stick out if they're too loud. So that's a good little tip to use. So those drums are sounding alright to me. So now what I'll do is I'll just add in the bass as well, and just check that that is kind of sitting about right too. So let's have a listen. Yeah, that sounds okay to me. Again, with sub and stuff, that's always something that I will listen out to very carefully, especially when I play it out in a club. I guess you get used to the setup that you have. So whether you're doing it on headphones, whether you've got speakers worth $5,000, or whether you've got speakers that you got off your mate, any speaker you can make work for you. Once you get used to what you have to do in your room to make it sound good, say for example in a club, then it doesn't matter what setup you have. Having said that, if you've got good speakers that give you a very flat sound, that's also helpful too. So with subs and stuff, I get it as close as I can and then I'll test it so I know what it will sound like in the car or on my iPhone, but especially when I play it out in a club, you can always hear if things are too bassy or too toppy. But at the moment, that doesn't sound too bad to me. Okay, let's add in the pad and have a listen to that. Okay, I'm just going to have a little look at the EQ on this one. Now, because the pad in this is filtered a lot, when you have things filtered with resonance and the cutoff, different frequencies are pushed and come out in the sound. Sometimes ones that you don't want to hear as much, but you kind of have to roll with it a little bit and make the best of what you can. So I've already done a bit of EQing. I've taken off quite a bit of the bottom end, and I've taken off some of the sparkle on some of the sound, which I might just have a little listen to that now and see what I think. So you can hear there where the filter changes, the dynamic of the sound sounds quite different. Now, what I am going to do is probably leave that off there. There's an effect in there, the Echo Boy, which is grinding things up a little bit, but which I quite like. So I'm going to leave that where it was. The rest of it doesn't sound too bad. And you can hear as it comes into this section there, it grits up a little bit more. It's where a bypass comes in from another effect, which I'll show you. It's on both channels. This is called Super Trigger, the plugin. It's a free plugin you can get, and it kind of like splices and chops things up. I use it quite a lot. What I will do generally is I will I will record a section, so say from 129 to 145 with this plugin running as audio, because it changes the pattern quite irregularly, and sometimes there might be certain bits that you want to put in, but at the moment I've just got it running as it is because it's a very subtle effect in the background, and it's only for this little section here, so by the time the other pads come back in here it's not even being used. So it's little things like that that just add a little bit of subtle detail. There's a bit of grit and noise in there as well, which I like. So that's all sounding okay. So then the final bit that I'm going to add on top of that is the angelic pads. Let's just check that they are kind of sitting about right. Just give them a little boost on the volume because I really like that part. So all in all, really, the whole track is not sounding too bad. Now I very rarely will just go, right, yeah, that's it, it's a wrap. I will always want to try it out. Ideally DJ and play it out, but if I haven't got a gig coming up that weekend, then I'll definitely live with it for a few days and try it out on some different systems. So I would advise you to do that. Also, another really good way, especially when you're learning your trade, if you like, or your craft, is to be quite critical of your music against the people that you like. So if your favourite producer is Slam or Radio Slave or Eric Prydz or whoever it might be, put your music up against them and see how it stands up. It's not always pretty listening because you sort of think to yourself, why am I bothering? But it's the best way to improve. And once you begin to understand some of the basic techniques, you'll find that you'll develop and move your music on. So I really hope the videos I've done have been helpful. You can always contact me on my Facebook page, Jim Rivers Official, and ask me questions about any of this sort of stuff. But for now, this has been me, Jim Rivers, for Sonic Academy. And until the next time, thanks for tuning in.